What would you say if a cop asked one simple question that quietly opened the door to your arrest? In bodycam after bodycam, that casual question is where everything falls apart. One nervous answer can turn a warning into handcuffs fast. Hit subscribe right now because what you're about to hear could stop you from talking yourself into a case. And tap like so you can find this video again. The day a real stop sends your brain into panic mode. Here's what makes this so dangerous for you. The question usually sounds harmless. It sounds friendly. It sounds normal. Where are you coming from? You got anything illegal in the car? Mind if I take a look? But those little questions are not little at all. They are pressure points. They are traps built to get your words, your consent, and your mistakes. I've analyzed over 200 bodycam videos, and the pattern is almost always the same. First comes small talk, then comes a contradiction, then comes suspicion, then comes a search, then your night is over. Here's the reality. You do not lose because you were guilty. You often lose because you answered badly. In this video, you're going to learn the first sentence that cuts off the phishing, the one line that blocks a search, the question that forces the stop into the open, and the final sentence that shuts your mouth before panic ruins everything. Now let's talk about why this matters to you so much. A traffic stop feels casual, but it is one of the most dangerous talking situations in your life. Your hands shake, your voice changes, your brain races. That is exactly when people start trying to sound helpful. They talk too much, they joke, they explain. They feel silence. Most people have no idea that every extra word can be used to build reasonable suspicion, which just means a legal excuse to keep digging. Here's the reality. The officer already has your plate, your location, your body language, and your reaction on camera. If you start handing over your story too, you make their job easier. You do not beat this moment by sounding clever. You beat it by sounding calm, short, and clear. Your goal is not to win an argument. Your goal is to give them nothing extra while still following lawful orders. The first move you need is setting the boundary. When the officer starts with small talk, you do not need to match that energy. You stay polite, but you make the lane clear. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I'll provide my license, registration, and insurance, but I do not wish to answer questions. Word for word. Memorize that line. Let me show you exactly why this works. It sounds respectful. It sounds calm. It does not insult the officer. It does not challenge the stop. It simply tells them you will comply with the legal basics, but you are not volunteering anything else. This is 100% legal. In many places, you may have to identify yourself and hand over required documents. That does not mean you have to help build a case against yourself with extra chatter. This matters because the first simple question is usually not about getting information. It is about testing you. If you say you're coming from work, then later mention a friend's house. Now they say your story changed. If you say you had just one beer, now they hear an admission. If you laugh and say, there's nothing illegal unless you count my messy trunk, now they hear nervous humor, and nervous humor gets written down as suspicious. Watch what happens when a driver thinks being friendly will save them. They start talking. Then they keep talking. Then they feel the need to explain why they're nervous. That alone makes things worse. Bad way. Most drivers say, oh, I'm just coming from my cousin's place, and no, I don't have anything. I'm just tired. Then the officer has a full story to test, poke at, and twist. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, I'll provide my license, registration, and insurance, but I do not wish to answer questions. Then the conversation gets smaller, cleaner, and safer. You are not being rude when you use that line. You are being disciplined. That matters more than people think. Officers are trained to notice details. The more details you give, the more chances you create for trouble. The less you say, the less there is to challenge. If the officer asks again, you do not invent new words. You repeat the same line calmly. That repetition is powerful because it shows control. No anger, no sarcasm, no speech. Just the same boundary. There is legal backup for this too. One case often discussed around stop and identify rules is Hebel v. 6th Judicial District Court. In plain English, that means some states can require you to identify yourself. It does not mean you have to tell your whole life story. Your legal duty and your loose conversation are not the same thing. That is a huge difference. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it removes the easiest opening they usually get, which is your own mouth. And one more thing. If the officer gives you a lawful order, you comply physically. You do not argue on the roadside. You do not resist. You do not reach around fast. You keep your hands visible and your voice steady. Your fight is verbal restraint now and legal challenge later, not roadside debate. That one sentence protects you because it keeps you from stepping on a trap you never even saw. Think you could stay this calm during a real stop? Let me know in the comments, because most people freeze the second the questions start. The second move is the line that blocks the biggest mistake of all, and that mistake is consent. This is where simple questions become disasters on camera. The officer says, "You mind if I look in the car?" Or, "You got anything illegal if I check?" Those sound casual. They sound like if you say no, you look guilty. That feeling is exactly what traps drivers. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Word for word. Memorize that line. Say it calmly. Say it clearly. Then stop talking. This line matters because your consent changes everything. If you say yes, you just gave away one of your strongest protections. You made the search easier. You helped create the problem. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it creates a clean record. It shows you did not agree. It shows the officer had to rely on some other legal reason, not your permission. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when a stop starts drifting toward a search. Bad way. Most drivers say, I don't care. Go ahead. I've got nothing to hide. Then the officer has your permission and your rights shrink fast. Good way. Smart drivers say, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Then the officer must stand on actual legal cause, not your panic. Let me make that simple for you. Your refusal does not magically stop every search. If the officer already has legal cause, they may still search. But your refusal still matters because it stops them from using your own words against you. It preserves your position. It keeps the record clean. It prevents the officer from later saying you agreed. That matters in court. A lot. The big case here is Schneckloth versus Bustamonte. Plain English? If you voluntarily consent to a search, police often do not need a warrant. Your yes can do the heavy lifting for them. That is why this line matters so much. You're not required to make their job easier. This is 100% legal. You can refuse consent politely. You should refuse consent politely. And then you stop filling the silence. Watch what happens after a clean refusal. Sometimes the officer backs off. Sometimes they bring a dog. Sometimes they ask again. Sometimes they act offended. Your job does not change. You do not switch to a softer version. You do not say, well, maybe just the trunk. You do not joke. You do not explain that you value your rights. You simply repeat the line if needed. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. If you think saying no makes you look suspicious, remember this. Nervous people consent all the time. Calm people refuse all the time. Refusing a search is not guilt. It is boundaries. It is the same reason you lock your door. You're protecting your space. Your car matters the same way. That one sentence can be the difference between an awkward stop and a life-changing charge. The third move is the question that exposes whether the stop is still real or dragging on. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. A traffic stop handles the traffic issue. That means the reason they pulled you over, your documents, and then you leave. It is not supposed to become a fishing trip that lasts forever. So when the mission of the stop seems done, you ask one clean question. You look at the officer and say this: am I being detained or am I free to leave? Those exact 9 words. Memorize them. Why is this so powerful for you? Because it forces the moment into the open. If you are free to leave, the stop should end. If you're being detained, then the officer is saying they are keeping you there. That matters. It makes the legal line visible. It also stops you from getting tricked into a consensual encounter where they act casual, but you could have left. Bad way. Most drivers say, so are we good, or what's going on? Then the moment stays vague, messy, and easy to stretch. Good way. Smart drivers say, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Then the officer has to make the status clear. This matters because long stops create opportunity. The more time passes, the more questions come. The more questions come, the more chances. Your goal is not to sound tough. Your goal is to end uncertainty. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it cuts through the fog. The case you need to know is Rodriguez versus United States. Plain English, police cannot extend a traffic stop longer than needed just to go hunting for unrelated crimes. That does not mean every stop ends fast. It means they cannot keep you there forever. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, and it is a huge protection. Now, be smart here. You do not ask this 5 seconds after the lights come on. You ask it when the stop looks complete. Maybe the warning is done. Maybe your documents are already back. Maybe the officer keeps talking, but the business is done. That is your moment. Calm voice, hands visible. Am I being detained, or am I free to leave? If they say you are free to go, you leave quietly. If they say you're detained, then you stop trying to charm your way out. Now you know the game changed. 90% of drivers don't know what's coming next. Stay with me for the next move. The fourth move is what you use when the stop turns accusatory. Maybe they say you're nervous. Maybe they say your story does not make sense. This is the moment many drivers break. They start talking faster to prove innocence. That is exactly when it gets worse. Listen closely because this is critical. Silence only protects you when you clearly claim it. Here's exactly what you say. I am invoking my right to remain silent, and I want a lawyer. Word for word. Memorize that line. That sentence matters because sitting quietly is not enough. A major case called Berghuis versus Thompkins made that clear. You must say it out loud. If you stay half silent but keep answering, you muddy the whole thing. Be direct. I'm invoking my right to remain silent, and I want a lawyer. Short, clean, strong. Bad way. Most drivers say, I already told you everything, I didn't do anything. Then they keep talking and hand over problems. Good way. Use the invocation sentence. Then the safest thing in the car becomes your silence. This is not movie drama, it is control. Miranda v. Arizona teaches us that rights protect you best when you say the words clearly. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection once ticket talk turns to accusations. And no, you do not use this line and then keep explaining. That ruins it. Once you invoke, shut the door with your own mouth and keep it shut. Do not let the stop drag. Do not give permission. Do not talk your way into trouble. One simple question can start the disaster, but your exact words can stop it. Stay safe.